Well, hey guys, welcome to Online Marine Science. Seniors, how are you? I hope you are doing well. And of course, our one junior, we can't forget about the man. Anyways, we're starting online learning, of course, diving into material this week. And the chapter that we're beginning with is chapter 15, Population Changes. This chapter is going to deal with Darwin and natural selection and touch on evolution and some of the evidences of evolution. We'll discuss those from a biblical perspective. And but as an introduction, I want to start with what is a world view? A world view is basically something that helps me define and make sense of the world around me. You and I may have different world views. An atheist and agnostic would definitely have different worldviews than I would. And so I want you on a discussion board, which will be on LMS under the topic chapter 15 population changes discussion board. Most of y'all have been posting pretty well, so that's good. I want you to answer these questions. Where did life come from? Why am I here? What is the point of all this? Why do we see so much suffering and pain? If we look around the world, you watch the news at night, there's so much suffering and pain and tragically death. And so why is that? Why do we see so much of that in the world today? How do we make sense of that? And then what happens after I die? I want you to answer these questions and post them on the discussion board as an introduction to, kind of how change happens in life. I want to show you this picture. It's from uh, the Spanish flu pandemic. 1918. This is from History Channel. It's estimated that it affected 1/3 of the planet's population and tragically killed between 20 and 50 million victims, including 675,000 Americans. We're underneath the pandemic right now, of course, COVID-19, but this is the deadliest one in history. It actually attacked healthy individuals. Healthy, really strong immune systems were more likely to fall susceptible to this virus. And so just think about that, right? Tragic, right? And so viruses change from year to year. Life changes from year to year. A lot of us have known friends have got the flu this year. Um, we may know people who are being screened for COVID-19. And if you get a flu shot, you get a different one each year. Why is that? Because the flu mutates, the flu changes. And so COVID-19 also mutated. And so they're actually investigating exactly where it came from. A lot of y'all put some good answers with that. And by understanding where it came from and how it mutated, we can better understand how to treat it and how to attack it. We have to attack it. So this all leads us to this man, Charles Darwin. I would ask if you know who he is, but he's got some amazing like sideburns there. That's like crazy. All right, anyways, but this is just kind of some portraits of him and pictures of, his progression. Young man, this was when he went on his 5-year voyage on a ship around the world, collecting specimens, looking at life, he's formulating his ideas about how life changes. This is him as kind of like a middle-aged man. He seems really happy. And then this is him as an older man, still rocking that smile. And so this is Charles Darwin, famous, famous name in science, of course. Came up with really, um, intense views on life. He actually studied to be a minister, which is crazy thing about probably some of y'all remember that from biology, but he had a faulty reading of Genesis, and we'll discuss that in a second. Discussion board number 2 is basically Darwin came up with this theory of natural selection. There's two main thoughts of natural selection. One is there's a struggle for survival. I'm sure you've kind of experienced that, or maybe someone in your life has experienced that. It's hard to live, and not only in the sense of in the first world country trying to find supplies right now. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like in nature. If we didn't have protective housing or a supermarket to buy food in, it would be a challenge to defend ourselves and to find food. And so what Darwin argued is that the ones who have the best adaptations, the best genetics, will have a higher fitness level and be able to survive the onslaught of life. And so they are more likely to survive and therefore pass those successful genes on to the next generation. And so natural selection is an interesting topic. And I want you to answer discussion board number 2 about the coronavirus. How could it be argued that the coronavirus is an agent of natural selection? Okay, so I want you to kind of think about that because natural selection is basically arguing the strongest survive. And if you think about it, it's not a very comforting thought because for the weak in society, should they be allowed the chance to survive? What about all the doctors and the nurses who are healthy and who have families who are fighting on the front lines? They're heroes, right? But they are putting their lives at risk. So I want you to kind of think about that because evolution, if you dive down deep into it, it can really come up with some pretty dark, pretty sad conclusions as far as like life goes. So the Bible and evolution do not agree on major points, of course. The evolution is not completely false. Life does change. We do see changes, but we see changes within a kind. Darwin thought that God created each species specific and immutable, which means unchanging, but that's not the case. If you read Genesis 1, 2, and 3, I encourage you to do so. The origin story of human beings, the origin story of the universe and planets and stars. Genesis 1:1 begin. This is the first verse in the Bible. In the beginning, God. In order for something to happen, there has to be someone who made it happen. In order for something to move, there has to be a mover. There's like a lot of fun philosophical arguments you can have, but in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that matters. It matters where you think we came from. If you think we came from a single-celled organism, that changes how you view life, how you view each other. If you view the fact that each human being was created by God and has a purpose, that also changes everything. And if we have a creator, we have to answer to the creator. And so if we don't have a creator, we don't have to answer to anyone but ourselves. And so it changes exactly like what we think about the world. So this is mostly a Christian argument, but the two types of evolution, macroevolution, macro large, we came from one single-celled organism to everything that you see. Like I told you before, at Thanksgiving, if you're eating with family, you're also eating family. We're all related according to macroevolution, which is what we think about with naturalistic evolution. Microevolution would be what Christians agree with. Microevolution is change within a kind, and we drew those cladograms, of course, differing evolution versus creation, what a cladogram would look like. And so here's an example. Maybe there was an ancient cat, and then that cat gave rise to the other cat species that we see today. So if I was with you face to face, I would ask you what you think that is. And of course, I'm not, but try to think about it. What do you think that is? And some of you may know, some of you may remember biology, but this is actually an ancient whale, according to evolution. This was an artistic rendition of Pakicetus. Pakicetus is an ancient whale, according to evolutionary theory. When I was young, I loved going to SeaWorld. This was before, of course, that documentary came out and questions started being asked if it's right to house these huge organisms in these tanks and showcase them. And there's debates that have been happening with that. Most of course, all of SeaWorld's orchid programs are shutting down. But when I was young, I couldn't believe that these small little human beings would get inside this cold, frigid water with these huge whales that could literally bite them in half and surf on them as you see, stand on them. They would jump and fly in the air and dive. It was a pretty crazy, impressive show. I'm not arguing that I believe that whales should be kept in pools like that. And now's not the time to even get into what I think about that. But I was blown away with the show. Whales are majestic creatures. They are strong and fast and really showcase God's power. But here, evolution teaches that life began in the water and then moved to the land, and then whales breathe air, so they're more related to us, not to fish. And so moved to the land, and then they went back into the water over, of course, this is taking millions and millions of years. You have to have a lot of time for these changes to occur in evolutionary theory, of course. And so I want you to create a PowerPoint by Friday. I want you to kind of dive into whale evolution. Okay, I want you to, because this is a very famous discussion as far as in science goes. And so I want you to create a PowerPoint, 75-point quiz grade, 100-point daily assignment grade. I want you to watch the video. I'm going to post the links that are important in the bottom in the description. Y'all, I'm sure, know how to find those. And so here's the outline. So each of these points should be one slide. And you can share this with me on Friday, email it to me, excuse me. You can do any of that if you want to. And so outline for the PowerPoint. Title page, image, and your name. Explanation of whale evolution from a naturalistic perspective. That naturalistic means there's no God. We're not talking biblical here. We're talking what evolutionary scientists would teach. And then I want a slide about evidence for whale evolution and evidence for whale evolution. So each of those are one separate slide. One slide that shows one type of evidence, another slide that shows a different type of evidence and explain what you're showing. You can also show a picture if you want. And then I want you to research Christianity's response to whale evolution. I'm going to post a picture right here from Answers in Genesis. Answers in Genesis is a Christian organization that fights evolutionary claims. They believe in a young earth. Some Christians believe in an older, some Christians believe in a young earth. We don't have time to get into that debate. Brilliant people on both sides. But Christianity's response to whale evolution, I want to see an argument against, an argument against, and an argument against. So there's basically, like 3 arguments against, 2 evidences, and 1 explanation. So you could also put an evidence there if you want to make 3, points of evidence. And then finally, conclusion. I want you to actually pick an argument. Now, I'm not going to be sharing this with anyone, and so I just want to see what you honestly believe. I'm not, oh, I have to pick, Christianity's response. Well, if you're not a Christian, no, you don't, and if you actually honestly believe like, well, maybe parts of it would be true, I just want to see what you actually think. I want you to defend what you actually think. You're about to go into college, and you're going to be, taught and a lot of different lessons as far as God doesn't exist, naturalism is all that we see. And you have to be able to defend where you stand. You have to be able to think about where you stand. Some of you may agree with it, and that is your choice to have. Some of you may not, and I want you to kind of start thinking like, well, why don't I believe in that? So pick an argument and defend it. For example, I believe in this because, blah, blah, blah. Should be a paragraph explanation, okay? So this is a 75-point quiz grade, 100-point daily assignment grade. This is due on Friday, okay? So here's notes for the week. Of course, these are subject to change, but I'll let you know if I make any changes. Lesson plans are on the class wall. Check those out. Video facts. There's a couple videos I want you to watch. Those are also in the lesson plans. These are due by 8 a.m. Discussion board questions are due by Thursday at 8 a.m. There's two of them. PowerPoint's due on Friday by 10. Want you to read chapter 15, answering questions on the worksheet on LMS. So there's a worksheet that's attached in the LMS website and the topic about chapter 15. So find that. Those are like 7 questions, multiple choice. It's not going to take you long. And then make sure to check in every day. I mentioned this in the lesson plans. There is a form check-in on Monday just to practice with that. But you need to check in with me every day. That could be turning in an assignment, shooting me an email, saying hi on the class wall, but you need to check in with me every single day. So until we talk again, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you have a great Monday or Tuesday or whenever you watch this. Online learning is pretty crazy. But anyways, until then, guys, God bless.